Hello, this is a quick rundown on how I make tank tracks for my tanks or armored personnel carriers that have a tracked. Previously I used to make just a simple mesh with the alpha maps and UV mapping, just to be used in the game engines to shift AUVs to animated tracks to emulate um, like make it visible as if the tracks is moving, but it's just a fakery. So if you can see, it's just a simple mesh with lots and lots of layers added to it, and you could see that it just lots of different versions of it. As you can see, there's a small planes there, and you could see with the alpha maps, you can see the little lines. You see where it's just lots of layers, so basically like an onion skin with lots of alpha to create an illusion that is actually filled out chunks of the track, but it's not. As you get close, you can see it's not really looking that nice. So more modern engines are allowed to use physics. Like in Unreal, for example, you can have a track, the track comprised of the individual links, and it allows the physics, and it looks much nicer, a lot more realistic, and yeah, all round better, more satisfying. So today I will just quickly show how to make one of those. So as opposed to modeling the whole mesh, the track belt, you just can hide that quickly, and I can show that I already pre-made one before. So as you can see, that looks much better. Okay, but the good thing about it, all we need to model is just one link. You don't have to model each link individually, and also you can animate it, because I've created a path, and using the path, the track links will just literally follow one after the other with user modifiers. As you can see on my right side, there's the modifiers that I use to move around. So without further ado, I'll just quickly show how I do this. So there's one of my track links I have modeled. As you can see, fairly simple model, not a lot of geometry on it. Yeah, just as simple as possible, because that's going to be used in the game engine, and I've done a little rough count. Each link is comprised of 500 triangles, and in total it works out about 50,000 triangles per track. So it's 100 triangles on the model. It's about half the amount of the budget of the polygons. So it's not too bad, it kind of model fits under 200,000 polygons. It should be fairly efficient for modern game engines anyway. So here we are. Just the track link is ready. So I've set it up where I want it to be on the actual model, in the right position, so you can see it sort of fits in the middle between the actual wheels, and it would fit in the tracks nice and snugly, so it goes around. I figured the size of it pretty well, so it fits between the track links right there, nice on the actual sprocket. And what I need to do is just to set the actual cursor in the middle of the track where the track pivot is. It's fairly important, because we're gonna create a path, and the path along which the track will be stretched around the actual the rollers and sprockets and whatnot, and just helps us just hide the armor away. And obviously I've already set the cursor up, and it's very important in that sense, because if you set it somewhere offside, you want to pivot start at the cursor, and the track and the actual track link and your path, you want it to be in the same origin point, which is at the cursor. So here we go. We just go out, go to the curve, and I just add the path. So the path, yeah, just go straight to edit mode, And what I try to do, I try to make sure that one vertex on the cursor on the control point will be at one wheel here. So if I need to animate the track, you can see the track will animate nice and smooth. Yeah. So each individual wheel will actually be able to move around with the point if I say up with the skinning, and they'll move the tracks around as well. So here we are, just quickly extrude them. Oops. Add an extra little point here. A few points to make it nice. Then we add a point for sagging on the support rollers, because it will sag between the actual track on the real tanks, will sag between the rollers, and then just drop it down and back up again and down and up again and down and back onto a sprocket. Now we just go around so the curve is nice and smooth around the sprocket, and drop it down again, and that's it. Okay. And just this part, we just go into curve and we create a little, on actually control points, and we create a section out of this, make a segment. There you go. So that's where we got nice control. We just want to rearrange this curve nice and smooth, so it stays nice and smooth, because our track obviously gonna follow it around. We also wanted to make it look like it follows around the sprocket nice and smoothly as well, so we get nice beautiful flow. I mean, if we're not happy, once we set the tracks up, we'll be able to readjust it anywhere we fancy to, really, but I kind of like to get it done straight off the bat. So yeah, the track, get a little bit more sagging going on. There you go. Get that. And just make it nice and smooth. Now obviously I do want to have a little gaps between the actual wheel and the path itself, because obviously the track itself, the track links themselves have a thickness, so you want to make sure they don't actually go into the wheel, they don't protrude in, so you're not having strange things happening. And we just, yeah, and that. Okay, something like that. I can just scale them as well, and as I hit the Z scale on there, I'll just hit 0, and it will 0. That makes it nice and perfectly straight line. And last thing but not least, we want to make sure that sometimes if you've been extruding, you can't by accident end up extruding it on the wrong axis. So what I want to do is just look in front view and make sure I'm 100% scaled on the zeros, and just hit 0. There you go. How about that? So nice little path we got here. Okay. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna generate an array modifier to our track link. We wanna take the relative offset off, because that will be mesh to mesh, but we wanna make sure our actual offset is constant. 1 meter is probably too much, so we wanna drop it down to, let's say, 14, and I worked out before, so in my case it's 0.16.5 if I remember correctly. Okay, so maybe even more than that. Let's do 0.8 maybe. But good thing about modifiers, you can adjust it anytime you fancy to. Okay, so, and then we just bang it out. We go about 50. I'll say about 100 and 2, probably that's what we want. And then we just go into deform and add a curve, and on the curve we select the actual curve. It's not always entirely visible where it is, so I can just go on the actual overview and select that, and boom, it is here. Now where I could see there's a strange artifacts going on, this is overlapping a bit crazy, so I think maybe the count is too high of the track links, so we're gonna drop it down so it doesn't overlay and doesn't create any funky or artifacts. Now there's a little gap here. You can adjust it by just literally going back into a NURBS curve, and you can either shorten it by reducing the sag on the tracks like that, and you can see the gap has disappeared. Now, as to be mindful when you animate it, if you have to animate this, what will happen is going over the bumps, it will make the gap increase and or shorten. So you have to be mindful of animating the top control points on the actual path itself as well, because you have to make sure that where your track is going up, it obviously stretches out and it pulls the link apart. So where the track goes up, and if it's a natural physics event, like in any other real vehicle, where the track goes up, it means at the top of the rollers it will straighten out, as obviously the tension will increase, and all these points here, the sagging points, they will all straighten up to make track straighter. So it's just something to be mindful when you do animation, because all of a sudden if you just lift one wheel up, what's going to do is going to have a massive gap in between, but yeah, that's something you worry about later. Yeah, just have a look that it actually fits between the gaps quite nice and easy. So if it doesn't fit perfectly, you can always adjust the distance, so you can increase the actual distance here to more to fit in, or smaller, whatever suits your needs, tiny bits by bits, so you got slightly better fitting. There you go. So it works a bit better, and you can even do even more. Here's the nice little tracks for you. Now that the track is created, but we only got one side of it. Ideally, we would have it on both sides, and you also wanted to have them as a separate track, because if you're doing animation, obviously you don't want to. You can copy and paste it, obviously, but it's not gonna do you no good. First of all, yeah, you're just gonna strangely shift around, which is really weird, and you don't want that. But also you want to have a complete control over how you're doing it. So easiest way would be is just the track, take the track itself and the path, set the actual cursor to the world origin, because we're gonna use that to mirror it across. Change our transform pivot point to 3D cursor, so this is where our mirror will happen across the cursor as well. Press Shift D, and that will allow us to duplicate, but it will move the copy of the track and the path together, so you can see it's not getting deformed any finally. But as soon as you move it, just hit the right mouse button, and it will leave it exactly in the same place as it was before. And after that, you just go to Object and Mirror, and you just go Y Local in my case, and here we are. We got exact copy but mirrored on the other side. I would just suggest to actually make sure that the faces are not inverted on the truck. Just double check. Just go straight into the face orientation and make sure everything stays nice in blue. That way you know that your face is gonna face the right way towards you. Sometimes when you mirror objects, it does invert faces, so you just gotta be careful. And after that, it's just literally renaming them to left and right sides. But that way, you've got both tracks now, and each an individual. So you got my right track and my left track. You go on, and I can animate them any way I fancy. So one go one way, and the other one can go the other one. So the truck and the tank can turn around in one spot, for example. And yeah, that's pretty much here we are at this point. I hope this is helpful for you, and good luck modeling your tanks. Thank you very much.